ask maybe what you know about mining or something like that, then you might say, I don't know anything. It's not a problem. So Mick, yes. Can you come and join in, please? Just make sure that we get Mick in. Who's the cameraman? Mick's a part of it, really. Yeah. Right, we'll just ask you your name and where you're from, all right? And I'll just explain what I'm doing on camera, and then we'll go for it, okay? You ready, guys? So, hi, Connor. Hello. So, what's your name? Connor what?
Hughes.
Connor Hughes. And it's a very good microphone, this is what's happening. And where are you from?
Stainford.
And you go to school?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Holy Family. No.
Where?
Holy Family.
All right. Good?
Yeah.
Excellent. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I'm modelling your head in wax. A lot of it goes in my mouth. Don't let it put you off. Joan Hart, the fit nurse, was very worried about my health. She thought I was going to die of wax in my gums. It's a very soft wax. Get it into sausages and like plasticine very quickly. Now you've got a very difficult face to do because you're a young boy. And it's a lot easier when you've got what you call character lines. And my last patient, I call them patients, was a man called Keith, who was about 75, and he had lots of laughter lines. And so his face was easy to track. You could follow lines around it, and you know, you can get, it's almost like following a map. You can almost follow the lines around his head and sort of build a picture. Whereas you haven't got many lines around your head. So I've got to think a lot harder and look a lot harder. Every now and again I use a hot knife to dig a hole out like your eye. So I'm trying to create a basic skull first. When you make sculptural heads, it's good to get down to the bones. I don't know if you ever watch on telly. Do you watch when they reconstruct like a Neanderthal man, and they get like a skeleton? They imagine they get a skull. He's got a big bridge on his forehead and stuff, and they start sticking little bits all over the skull to work out how much skin was there. So, like for example, on your head there's not much flesh, but there's lots. So they would know that there'd be not much skin there, so they wouldn't put much flesh on the bone, but they would build it up there, and they'd begin to build a picture of what Neanderthal man would look like. This isn't, when you do it properly, much different. You build up from a skull, and you build up look at the soft flesh and all that sort of stuff, and you build up a kind of a picture of densities and thicknesses and stuff, and a head begins to come. Excuse me, I have to keep my wax warm under the armpits as well.
Is that why you chew it?
Yeah, chewing it. Well, you need 3 hands really, because I'm holding this. So often I need to pick a bit off. If I go like that, and it's in my hand, you see. Then it's too big again. So go down to that, and then that's about right for an eye. So
I thought it might be a bit like maggots for fishermen, whelming them up.
Yeah. So you end up with a mouthful of wax. I didn't realise how much I did it until, because I always do this by myself. I very rarely actually sculpt in company. I'm always by myself in the studio. So I don't know I'm doing that. And then here, suddenly it's the main theme of the day. Everyone's asking me, am I eating wax? You don't want to eat it really. And you've got a wide head, nice wide head. And your ears are fantastically, it's going to be brilliant. This. You're perfect.
Could be worse, Connor. It could be earwax.
So, your granddad's Mr. Lanigan, isn't he? He's a bit of a character around here, I think, isn't he? He's known about, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do you know who he's known about?
Yeah.
Does he tell you a lot about mining?
Yeah.
The days of mining? What is your favourite story?
I don't know. I can't remember.
You've got that many, haven't you?
Yeah.
Really?
So, Mick, you were a miner in Hatfield.
Hatfield Pit, yeah.
And you were there for how long?
I was there for 11 years.
11 years?
Yeah.
And why did you stop? Because
I had an accident down pit.
Did you?
88, yeah.
the ATA,
In 88.
88.
Yeah. Sort of like 3 years after the miners' strike.
Right.
So,
And was that obviously horrible? Was it a crush or a?
it damaged my spine basically without going into a long
Yeah.
story. But it were hard. It were hard to hear doctors telling me what my capabilities would be like in previous lives when you were a young lad. And we used to going down and working down pit,
Yeah.
and playing football and walking fields, and suddenly it all came to a juddering stop type of thing, you know what I mean? So it were hard to get my head round at times.
Yeah. Difficult. So what did you do down the? Did you do were you one of the guys that did a bit of everything, or did you have a specialism? And
I were a face worker. I worked on rips. Mainly the rips were to develop the gateways that followed the faces as faces advanced. And I mean, I worked on both return gates and main gates, but I was mainly a main gate ripper at most of the jobs I did.
so gate is
Against the roadway, it's another name for roadway. So it was sort of,
so you're building corridors,
yeah, basically, yeah, basically.
and are they the entrance? Are you doing the exits and the entrances? And
Well, you'd have two gates running parallel with each other.
but they're at the other end of each at the other end of a face, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
So they could be 200 yards apart.
Yeah.
So you're 500 yards down and below, and there's two holes going parallel, joining a whole world of.
Just joining the face in between. Yeah.
But they all link up eventually to a load of roadways and districts
they all link up to, well, they all linked up to out by beltways, and the belts that took the coal out to the Staple pit first. It was like a big storage bank, if you like. Took it to the Staple pit first, and then it will wound up. I worked mainly in number 2 pit at Hatfield. Number 1 pit with the coaling shaft, but it also took men up and down. And number 2 pit with the main man rider pit.
And how many men did you get on a shift?
It depended really. It depended what phase you were working on. It depended what district we were working on. There were times you'd go down pit and you'd go to your own face, and if it were brought down, you'd be put onto a different face, and you know you'd run spare and things like that. So it's hard to say. It's hard to put a definitive figure on how many men worked in a district at any one time, because you'd also have your material men working on that district. You'd have belt men working on the district. You'd have overmen, deputies. It's hard to say. I couldn't put a definite figure on it.
God, what's that? Forgot about that
What's
one.
that bit, Colin?
So, did you once told me you were a ripper as well?
Yeah, that's it. I were a ripper. I were a main gate ripper.
So that means you're digging out stuff before the gate and then
No, basically, it's the stonework that's above the face as the face advances. And again, depending on where you was, some ribs would give itself a bit easy. Some ribs you'd have to drill it, bore it, dynamite it, blow it down, and then load all that rubble onto belts. I were usually working in gate end, but there were like 2 jobs. Well, there were 4. It were a 4-man job. There were 2 lads that were working gate end. There were 2 lads that were working pack hole. Pack hole were basically part and parcel of the strata control system. Not a good job for a pack hole job. It was an hard job. But then again, most jobs at pit were hard.
Yeah.
In reality.
And did you enjoy the work? I mean, or was it something else that was? I mean, you're passionate about it. Is it because of the work, or is it because of?
It was a mixture of everything really. With the work itself, I mean, you know, you're doing this. At the end of it, you will take an amount of satisfaction for doing a job and a good job.
I hope so.
And literally that was part and parcel of the work anyway. But in reality, it was a mixture of things. It was the camaraderie of the lads. I once told when I first started at Pit being old miner, you never ever call yourself a collier until your workmate calls you a collier. And I stuck with that for all my time. But as well as that, he said to me, best bit of advice I can ever give you, Mick, is that if you're ever in a pub car park knocking bits out of another lad that works down pit beer, always finish it with a shake of the hands, because he might be the next lad that's digging you out on Monday morning. So the camaraderie were a main part of the working, and it's something I've never experienced before or after.
No.
the way that lads work.
I have to say, you know, coming here for the first time when I was, you know, learning this, I was really taken aback by the passion and still the sense of community and loyalty and comradeship, really, and brotherhood, I suppose you call it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. The sad part about it is, I mean, I was talking to a taxi driver actually a few weeks ago. I'll not use the right words, he said, but he said, this village is full of idiots. And I sort of threw my thumb over my shoulder at this kind of lads who were talking about. I said, you see them idiots there? He said, aye. I said, well, them idiots there, and again, it's not the word that he used. Them idiots there, they'd have been the ones with the balls to climb up into a 30-foot hole down pit and make it safe. All that's gone, all that's lost. It's not just the fact of losing 300 years worth of coal from the country. It's
Future coal,
yeah. It's a fact of... Somebody said to me, what would happen if they opened a pit now, somewhere in England? And my reply was, it would do us no benefits at all, because we learnt off lads that had worked down pit all their life. They learnt their job off lads that worked pit all their life, and it were a follow-through, a generation follow-through type of thing. That's gone now.
That knowledge.
That knowledge, that knowing what you're doing, not just the job itself, but having the pit sense to keep yourself alive at the end of the day. That sort of thing's gone now. That unbroken chain is now blocked, and it's they'll never ever be able to fix it. Never be able to fix it. So if they opened a pit tomorrow, up the road from us, if you didn't get ex-miners going in there, most of them are like me now, they're too old and too buggered to do it.
Where's the craft?
Yeah, you lose it. You lose it.
I went home after meeting you guys, and I went back to my foundry and all the guys there, and I was telling them about all this. And I said, you just can't. I said, you can't contemplate, you know, kind of imagine the kind of sense of grief and loss that's still around in the community, and a sense of the power of the whole thing. And I said, that just, you know, until you get there and talk to these people, you don't realise what they've lost, you know, in the whole community. And then the guy said to me, it's a bit like the government told you art is banned from tomorrow onwards.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly bring it home, that it's just bonkers to think that I couldn't ever do this again.
Yeah.
I was stopped literally from doing this.
Yeah.
And it's the same as you, isn't it?
Dead same. Dead same.
And then sorry, I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were talking about the Reformation, and it did happen. Henry VIII and all that lot stopped art.
Yeah.
Stopped it.
Yeah.
So there was a moment when all the skills, and that's why the likes of Holbein and all those guys came from Holland, and all the Dutch artists came, because there was no English-British artists.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Amazing.
It's the same problem,
Amazing. It's the same thing. Exactly the same thing. I can only remember during strike. I can only remember once a policeman that we were talking to on top of our pit lane. He walked off the job. He was the only one that I'd ever seen and show any sort of compassion at all. And he were actually arguing with the other coppers on our picket line that we got no dead else in the village. It obvious we were going to fight for what we had got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's shocking.
You'll do your head a bacon.
Well, the wonderful thing about a young head like Connor's is this wonderful thin neck. And I love you have a big head, not you personally, but a child of your age has a big head on a very thin neck. And you can get quickly the idea of a young child just by getting that sense of a thin neck.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. I love it. I've done my kids like this. Not enough, but I've done it.
In a way, I suppose there's things like that with thin neck. It's the same as what the Japanese cartoonists go with.
Yeah.
With the kid, I mean, they do big eyes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes more of a childish face type
Yeah.
of thing.
It's all that skull development.
So that has been developing then, Spanny.
No.
Your skull.
That head's full of something. Well, it's really fascinating because, today I've spanned, how old are you, Connor?
10.
10. So I've spanned 75 years of human beings in one day. And so this is great for me. I mean, just I get the opportunity for models like you just to come, give me their time. And I just do quick studies. And I just learn so much. The reason I'm doing this is there's a sculptor called Rodin. I don't know if you've ever heard of Rodin. But he's this famous French guy from about the 19th century. And he had to do a big sculpture of some people in a French town called Calais. And he thought, how am I going to make it special to Calais? So he went and spent a whole load of time down in Calais and he sculpted portraits like these of people of Calais and tried to work out whether there was a facial type, whether they all had the same kind of cheekbones or noses or chins. And if you look at this sculpture, which is outside the Houses of Parliament in London, they all have incredibly similar features, and he found a kind of a feature he liked. And so they look like they're a member of a community or a member of a tribe, And I always thought that was brilliant. And so I thought that gave me the idea for doing this. I thought, you could kind of, if I was to end up doing some figures in this sculpture, maybe there's a face type of Doncaster, and around it, maybe there are some people that share features. And so I just want to look at you.
That's interesting, to say that the majority of people, particularly from the mining industry around Doncaster, are all from different parts of the country. I mean, that field pit, it became known as a gypsy pit because we were picking up Welsh lads, Scottish lads, Geordie lads, Irish. My family came over from Ireland to work in pits. So in reality,
It won't be like that.
the Doncaster miners come from a wide range. Of people. I mean, Polish. We had a lot of Polish working in pits.
So how do they come across? I mean, if we're talking in the 60s and 50s?
A lot of them. There were a bloke that I got talking to. He was an old lad. He was working his time out, retired before he retired, and he was on a job called the taps. It was running belts basically. And he was a very quiet man. Very, very rarely opened his mouth to talk really, unless it was something to do with job. And I'd got a reading book in my battery pouch, and it was just a story about the Second World War. And he tapped it and he said to me, "That's wrong, that." And I said, "How do you mean?" And Yanni opened up and he pulled his arm up and he'd got concentration mark. And
Sorry, I'm getting close, don't worry.
he'd not gone in as a member of the Jewish community into it. He was a trade union activist.
So like a political
in
prisoner.
Poland. So he sort of got caught up in the political side of it. He escaped from there. He went to join partisans up in mountains. Then he moved from there and went across, came across Channel and joined up with Free Polish Brigades in England. He was involved in D-Day.
Gosh.
And then got caught again and finished war out in another concentration camp where
So he was caught on the beaches?
he got caught somewhere in France. Him and I think he said about 4 or 5 others that got separated from his division and they got caught and taken away. They were lucky really. He said they were lucky that the Germans didn't shoot them, because they know a lot of lads that got caught up that never ended up in concentration camps. So that bloke, really, he did two tours of concentration camps.
God.
And so after he finished telling me that, he clammed up again and he never spoke again.
Really?
You know, very, very quiet, sort of humble fella type of thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of Polish came over because of that.
Because of the war?
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't because there was I was thinking, in a community like this, did they have specific skills in mining, for example, that was needed? Or were they just coming, knowing there was mines here, come and get a job, so to speak?
Not necessarily. I mean, they came over knowing that there were colonies working over there.
Yeah.
Quite probably there could have been colonies in Poland.
Yeah.
That come over. But there were quite a number. And at our pit there were quite a lot of Polish families, let's say, or Polish derivative families.
Did they stay?
Yeah, quite a number of them did. Quite a number of them did.
So I suppose descendants are still, well, not descendants, I suppose they're still here.
Yeah.
In Stainforth?
Yeah, well, the villages around Stainforth, what's peculiar about Hatfield is where most pits had one, maybe two villages that depended on the jobs that were provided through a pit. Stainforth were different, Hatfield were different. It gained its workforce from Stainforth, Dunscroft, Thorne, Moorends and Hatfield itself.
Mm.
So when we talked about if you kill a pit, you kill a community, it was actually more than one community that were killed when our pit went. And albeit our pit closed last, it was second to last, if you like.
Which was the last one?
The last one were Kellenham.
Kellenham.
Yeah. We thought it was going to be ours, to be honest with you. We thought Kellenham would go before Hatfield, the way things are going. And then suddenly out at Blue, they shut Hatfield, there were no more mothballing it, they filled in shafts, and that was it, done, dusted. And in between Hatfield Colliery and North Sea, there is just one big block of coal.
Really?
It's lost. It's lost now. You've got to think, Con, the coal fields that bordered onto the sea actually took coal from underneath the sea, particularly up north, around New Biggin area.
Jeez.
But in reality, it's just one big block of coal in between us and the middle of North Sea. And as I say, even if they went and dug an hole tomorrow, you wouldn't
be.
Because you haven't got miners now.
Haven't got the skills.
You haven't got that word of mouth passing on skills.
Yeah. Were you desperate to get down the pit?
Me?
Was it something you really wanted? Did your dad want you to come down the pit?
No, my dad didn't. No. Peculiar, I suppose that was peculiar. In Yorkshire area, it were a common thing for dads to follow lads into the pit. Yet in somewhere like Wales, they always said the biggest export from Wales beside coal were teachers and maids, because they pushed their kids to get out of the coal mines, whereas we just took it that we followed as dads in. And my dad, we were chief mechanical engineer at Hatfield. He started up as a greaser at 13-year-old, and my dad were adamant that I couldn't go down there. They were adamant. And I left school and I sort of messed about doing jobs, but I wanted to go down pit. I wanted to be where all lads in the village were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, your mates.
Yeah. And then it got to a point where I had a not just me, there were a dozen of us had an up and down with a painter and decorator contractor that we were working with, and it left me skint for that Christmas. And I said to my dad, look, Father, kick me out if you want, but I'm going at pit. And it was sort of, I were old enough then to make my own mind up, and I'd have gone anyway. But yeah, I suppose in a way that's all I ever wanted to do.
And what was your first experience? I mean, we were talking to Joan about kids being scared down there, scared stiff, and how she'd nurtured them through, and how actually even with their fathers would be upset with them because they were, not letting the side down, I suppose, but it was kind of like, come on, balls up, basically. and she would nurture them and take them back and find them a job maybe above coal. I mean, were you scared, or was it something you just... Did you know it? I mean, when did you first go down? How old were you when you first ever went underground?
Ever went underground?
Yeah.
Oh, I went underground when I was still at school. Well, my last year at school. They had a visitors day at Hatfield, and they took loads of people, men, women, kids, and they took them down and showed them around the pit. And that was my first ever experience going down the pit.
And was that exciting for you?
I suppose exciting is maybe the wrong word really, because it weren't, I don't know, it felt normal to me.
Really?
It felt normal. And I don't think, apart from working conditions, I don't think any of us were really frightened as such.
No.
You were too busy trying to keep your mind on what you were doing and making sure that you got out at shift injury free. You were too busy to be frightened, I suppose. Albeit that there were other times when you sit there and you look up into an all-up face that's 30, 40 foot high, with lumps as big as double-deckers dropping on your head. It can be a bit daunting, let's put it that way. You know. But again, it's something we did. It were natural, if you like.
Have you ever been down a pit, Connor?
You were working in natural conditions and in a natural environment. To yourself, it were a natural course of your life.
Yeah. So you haven't been down the pit?
No.
Have you been down to Wakefield Museum?
No, we were going to once, we didn't get a chance.
We're about going down there this next summer, aren't we?
Are we?
Hopefully. Your dad wrote about it.
I thought it was brilliant. Excellent. I was very surprised how interesting it was. Not that I'm not interested in mining, but I think, it was fascinating. Because they also take you through the periods of history. There's actually, setups where there's ponies and so you've got the kind of mining history as well through the whole...
And when they talk about pit ponies, I mean, my wife's granddad, he were a pony man. He worked with ponies down the pit. So it's within our memory that the slog ponies at the pit. Or let's say the community's memory, if you like.
They're almost mythical, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a bit like the canary as well.
Yeah.
That was a special part. I mean, there used to be a shed at the pit that housed canaries. And every pit had them. Every pit had them.
And did they, and I was talking to someone, I suppose at one of my talks, about a canary reviver. You'd actually have a cage and then you'd go down and then once they croaked, they'd actually re-gas them to bring them back to life. So they wouldn't sacrifice them.
No.
They actually had to come back to life.
Yeah.
So it was like a little air oxygen chamber.
My dad were in Mines Rescue Brigade for a certain part, and they always spoke fondly at canaries because that were part and parcel of their tackle that they took down pit.
So did you have a canary keeper, did you? You didn't have someone that was specially assigned to canary keeping?
No,
Did you?
Yeah. The lad that used to look after canaries during strike, actually he came to us for permission to go across the picket line to go down and make sure somebody were looking after canaries.
Really?
So we let him go down and they were okay, but the lad were whittled. He were whittled like they were his own.
Really? How many would you have down there?
Again, depending on what pit, depending on the size of the pit. But there would always be canaries knocking about the pit top.
Did with the ponies, old Keith was talking about how they showed them and stuff like that. They didn't show canaries. Did they have at the Guards have canary competitions?
I never heard of it. I never heard of it.
Incredible, isn't it? Amazing, really. You are difficult. God, you're giving me a nightmare, you are. You've got a very good mouth.
Got a big
Yeah.
one.
Not big as Caden.
Who's Caden?
Little brother.
He's your brother.
Yeah, but how many brothers have you got?
2.
You got sisters or you?
No.
Good name, isn't it? Connor, Caden. How do you spell Caden?
Remember?
Can't remember.
No.
How do you spell your brother's name?
I think it's K-A...
K-A-I-D-E-N.
No, it's... Oh, wait, no, K-A-I-D-E-N.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are these Irish? Are they Irish names?
Yeah.
I'll look.
Look, Connor, Cian, and Caden.
There's
Nice.
loads of people in my school called Connor.
All 3 of them are Irish names.
Where in Ireland are your family from?
Over on West Coast, right up at northern tip, if you like. A lot of my family went over there. It turns out the name's actually spelt wrong, and nobody knows the true story on why it's spelt like it is. Our name's spelt L-A-N-A-G-H-A-N, and it weren't until my granddad passed away and they got death certificates. His proper name is Peter Lenihan.
Oh.
N-A-G-H-A-S. And they don't know if it were done by mistake when he came in from Ireland or whatever. But once they found out the real name, family went over to Ireland and they found out where he comes from and they've been to the village and things like that.
Really?
And there's still family over there.
So who was it that came over? Your great granddad?
My granddad.
Your granddad?
My granddad came over from Ireland, up north east originally. My dad was born as a Geordie, and then they moved out family down here with Pitolton. My granddad Drew, from my mum's side, he were a Welsh miner. And the local legend is he's one of the Welsh lads that after 26 strike found out that there were jobs up here, and instead of being blackballed in Wales, they came up and found work up here. And again, that's where a lot of Welsh lads came into our area. It's a big melting pot around that field. Again, like I say, Irish, Scotch, Welsh.
Is that unique to Hatfield or just all the mining villages?
I don't think it's unique to Hatfield.
No.
I think it's more prevalent of Hatfield because Hatfield were one of the later pits, if you like. But every pit area had Irish families and Welsh families, and every pit had a taffy. Yeah. And some pits had more than one taffy.
No women?
Pardon?
Down pit, no women?
No, that had gone, women employed down pit, they've gone long before Hatfield was something.
Because they were historically, weren't they? Years and years previous.
The older the pit, the more chance it had at some point of having women employed there. But a lot of the employments of women were more up towards Chickfield area, into Dale country.
And is that because there were families employed?
It was simply and solely because that's where the bosses could find the workers to do it. It weren't a family thing as such. It was called a necessity, really. But now, thankfully, women employed down pits and kids employed down pits had ended long before Hatfield came in. But again, the mythology of being in a pit community knows about women employed at pits, knows about kids employed at pits. Like I said, my dad was 13 when he started at colliery.
Yeah.
Only a bit of a kiddish thing. And the sad part about it is, whereas when pits were open, and you'd hear stories repeated by the old miners, once pit shuts and that talking shop shuts, them stories fade out of existence. And it's a crying shame. I mean, ours were as much an oral history as what it was the written history.
Well, that's what I was going to ask your advice on this. I wanted to create in this sculpture a kind of a, well, you might be at the XP school talk, I probably touched on it there, where I want to create a kind of glossary of terms, really, or a lexicon, I suppose. And
Again, that's something else. I mean, we, not so much as our language, but words that were employed down pit as regular words to use, ended up crossing over and became regular, normal words that we used in our own language. For example, I think I might have told you this one before, that nowadays, if any young ones get an overtime job in a pub, if landlord lets them stay for a couple of drinks in overtime, if you like, it's now called a lock-in. Whereas when we were kids, it was called a noggin, and that was because an overtime shift at pit was called a noggin.
really,
So it crossed over. People like me that can naturally weep it can waffle, and that were a word taken that when you do, you cut up the coal with your main machine, and it piles the coal up behind you on the face side. They drop the head and then come back, waffling it quicker all onto the chain. So if you could talk, you could waffle. You know, so that is again going along with the loss of pit jobs, the loss of pit languages have been just as prevalent.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, nowadays, if you put two pit lads together, I'll put two pit lads in a pub with a pint in front of them, and pit pillar can start.
Pillicking.
Pit pillar. And it were a thing that if you give it, you'd have to be able to take it. And basically, his pit pillar is winding up, you know. I mean, a friend of mine, I've always said he was a black belt 7th dan in pit pillar. Well, his mate of mine, and he's still like it now. But again, it's something that's lost. It's part and parcel of our makeup as mining villages that's lost, that's gone.
And did the language change from pit to pit?
It did. There were a lot of words that were similar that were used the same, but dependent on what area, the language had changed. The words, not so much the language, but the words would change for certain things. And a lot of them, it's like our pit, there were a lot of words that were used down our pit that were prevalent in Durham coalfields. And that was because we had a lot of Geordie lads come from Durham coalfields working in Yorkshire pits. You know, so they carried their words with them as well, and we adopted words from them.
Right.
And it became part and parcel of his makeup.
Because
But that just wasn't peculiar to the miners, that was peculiar throughout the community. You know, it weren't just miners that called it a noggin to get a lock in it, or it were, everybody called it a noggin. You know?
Because I did talk the other night, and we were talking to people, and they were, I mean, it was this, they were saying, I mean, they had words that were different, so they called a block of wood a Bible.
We call them chop blocks.
Chop blocks. See, so it was like these interesting changes in terminology for things,
Yeah.
which I was quite, you know, interesting. I mean, we're only talking 10 miles away.
Oh yeah, yeah. But in saying that, if you look at Doncaster, conurbation of Doncaster, and from one side of Doncaster to the other side of Doncaster, the regional accent changes. You look at Barnsley, and they've got a different regional accent than Doncaster. I mean, we had some lads move to our pit from Dinnington, I think it was, and where we say coal, they say coil. Where we say boots, they say buoys. I mean, it was something that they got the Mickey taken out of them, let's put it that way. But it was, you know, we'd call a coal chute a coal chute. They say a coal chute.
Wow, yeah.
You know, and that less than 10 miles up the road, and that linguistically to change. And even now, you know where somebody is from a certain area in Doncaster by their own accent themselves. But again, a lot of that were brought in through mining families moving into area from other areas.
Yeah. I mean, Coyle, where's that from, do you think? Is it further north?
I just think it's the way that they've talked in Barnsley area over that area for a long, long time. It's a different way of saying talking Yorkshire in a sense. You're picking your nose out.
No, we're not.
Your eyes are very subtle. Problem with this is, the problem with making sculpture is it's wrong, 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 until it's right. So this is just continually wrong. And it gets quite, you lose your confidence. I'm never going to get it right, I'm never going to get it right. And just keep, that's why it's scary, only having 2 hours. Usually it takes a month to do a head like this. People usually come back 3 or 4 times. So I'm being mad, I'm being dangerous and risky.
You get to a point to know where you go that little bit too far, you think, or a little bit off here.
Yeah. Knowing when to stop
Yeah.
is the biggest trick. I was going to take photographs of everyone like you, and I was going to take it home, and I thought, well, if I don't get it right, I'll finish them off at home. But I've already realised that, A, it's not part of the spirit of the thing. It just feels wrong. The relationship between me and the sitter is very important. And also, you get to a point where the subtleties just don't come across on the camera, and you can't, and you could ruin things. And then, and if you haven't got the reference point, and you haven't got a bloke in front of you, you're never going to come back. You'll never come back. And if I take a photograph and lose it, the reference point, and it's wrong, I'm lost. So I've decided not to take the photographs.
It must be hard working off a photograph to do a 3-dimensional thing,
Yeah.
and you're working off a 2-dimensional photograph.
It's really, really difficult. In fact, it's just not done.
Because live, there's got to be more nuances in it than
Yeah.
photograph. That's the answer.
Absolutely. And eyes are very difficult because
Are you watching, Connie?
put a ball in an eye kills it. So you've got to work out how to fill an eye socket without, because actually a ball is just a shape. You can see how the Greeks and stuff, they used to put shells in lapis lazuli or even paint the eyes, and they look very strange. But we've developed techniques of hollowing out and putting tiny little bits of wax in and stuff just to give impressions of the eye. So it's all about, there's a sense of impressionism as well about it all. Hinting at things, which takes a long time to work out. Are you tired, Connor? I thought you'd be fascinated by all this. I thought you'd be, riveted. Absolutely riveted. Hello. Is this the longest you've sat down?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
this
not
is just
fine.
his mouth shut. Nicky.
Caden can sit down and do this for 2 hours.
That's a family thing, that roll cover. We've all got big mouths here.
And Caden's got biggest.
You're not competitive, are you?
Mm-hmm.
What will you usually be doing at this time? Your homework?
No, I bet this week I will play on the Xbox.
On the Xbox? Well, I'm very sorry. Keeping you from your Xbox. You're looking very old at the moment. You're looking like an old boy. That's why I've got white spirit. Put that on my finger. I can smooth you out. So don't worry. But I've got to get a little bit of stock. God, you're difficult. You are a difficult man around the eyes. You look at me. Sometimes even the light in the room, you want a shadow coming across so you can understand what's coming up and what's going. Sometimes you just have to look and I'll put you off and I'm very worried. I'm scared that you're going to be scared. But when I'm doing that, I'm not going to poke your eyes out. See, when you're doing life-size heads, that, you can say, oh, it fits nicely. But when it's small heads, I can't use my fingers and my hands. I have to guess at what it would feel like. Because often I'll do that, you see, like that.
Yeah.
And then I go, oh yeah, I can see. You know, that hand has got all those points of contact and feeling, and it's just like an eye. It's like a magic eye. And I go, doof. And then I fix that, and I go back onto a head, and it's like, oh, it's wrong there, it's wrong there, it's wrong there. It's a bit like levelling out a flat thing with bluing. You sort of keep going until it's flat. And you go, okay, it's wrong there, so you add up and you add up and add up, and then take away, and suddenly it kind of fits. You keep doing that, and it's like, oh, it fits. I can feel it. You can do it with your eyes closed sometimes. But I can't do that here. So I have to really think, okay, I've got to look.
See, that's, you just hit nail on the head there with that in your own job.
Hmm?
You learn your job by experience.
Yeah.
It's not something that can be learnt out of a book.
No.
You know, you've just said that there about touching. Now take that and put it into a mining perspective. And what I was saying about being learnt by old lads. It's very
Yeah.
You know, it comes back down to what you're doing, if you like.
Yeah.
You've not learnt that. You've got the ability to do it in the first place, haven't you? You've got to.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's that sort of late nature nurture thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think I was born an artist sculptor. It was never in my family or anything like that. So you kind of just say, I want to be it. And then you look at, and then you just think, you learn technically how to do things. So you learn a technique. So you learn how to measure something, and you learn how to get plumb lines down, and you learn how to get calipers on heads and stuff, and you learn how to build a skull and all that sort of stuff. And then you end up with a head that looks like everyone else's head in the class. And he goes, oh, well done you. It looks like that, looks like him, then it looks all like, they all look the same. You think, well, that's not me. What am I going to be doing? You know, what's going to be different? What am I going to make? And then you start to think, okay, I've learned a few rules. And it's a bit, I suppose this might be a bit different to mining in a sense, because you're saying, okay, I must break them. What I'm doing now is a massive breaking of kind of rules.
Yeah.
There's no way I should be having anyone in here. There's no way I should be talking to you. There's no way I should be doing it this fast. And, you know, the lights, everything's wrong. I'm not measuring. I'm not concentrating properly. I'm just instinctually making. Yeah. And that is not how you do a head. And really, I've made my own technique. I've learnt my own way of doing things. And they're now me. They're just me.
Yeah.
So if people are watching this, you call it, I suppose you call it, in the art world, they call it behaviour. You've kind of learnt your own behaviour. I have my hands do certain things. I do that, and I do that, and I have this sort of way of responding with materials to subjects, which is just, it's a bit like, I was thinking the other day how I often tie up a figure with string, tie something to it, and I tie a few certain knots. And then I thought, can I do that with a roof rack? I tie the stuff, I do the same knots in a roof rack, I do the same knots, with my laces, all that stuff. That's my behaviour, that's this kind of style of I work. And that's now gets put into my sculptures. It's kind of how I do things. It's my natural tick. It's my natural kind of sort of habit. And it's all come out of my sculptures now. There's just habits that I have and behaviour that I have that makes me me and not that other person in the class. And it's taken 30 years to work all that out. And that's, I suppose, a bit different. Because, Ripper, you were taught ripping, or whatever. Did you have another guy that did it in a certain way? Like you could tell the previous shift, you knew Jim had done that bit in the corner, and you knew Jack had done that bit, because there's just a way in which his behaviour had come through.
Yeah, you may be right. I've never thought of it in that way, but yeah.
It's like a signature.
Yeah.
Well, that's
albeit the job that they'd be doing shift before you and the job that you're doing after them is the exact same job. Yeah, you would have different
styles,
if you like. Yeah. Everybody would follow the same pattern of doing the job. You'd have a set pattern how to do the job. Bore it, fire it, clear it, set your bow, set your legs, sheet it in. So they were the sort of the commonality between every rip and every ripper.
Mm.
But then you'd have somebody that maybe bore it a bit different, or they'd use a jigger in a different way, and A lot of that came down to experience and learning what not to do and learning what to do type of thing.
It's interesting. And I now, once I've sort of worked out that was the case, I mean, it's not about style, it's about just going beyond style. It's about nervous tics, the way you are. And I love the fact that, I can put the way I am, just relating to material and a subject, etc. And I can put it into wax and I can put it into bronze. And there's going to be fingerprints and all my little nervous tics and all my strange moments of looking at you and listening to you is somehow embedded in this thing. And I mean, even in the sink now, I'm going, this is not like you, not like you, not like you. It's terrible, I hate it. And then you go, leave me, and it'll be a very sad moment, but you'll be very happy. And then I'll sit down and have a rest for a while, and then I'll pick it out of the sink, and I'll go, do you know what? That feels just like Connor. It may not look like you, it may not, but it's got something of you in it, because what else happens if you spend 2 hours in front of someone, just looking at them, trying to copy them, and you end up with something of the boy, of the subject. And so it may not look exactly like them, but there's a spirit in there that is then put into metal, made a mould of, and cast in bronze, and can last thousands of years. Your head could be here when the earth disappears. They could go, the next civilization might find your head in a field. You might end up in a museum somewhere. If I write Connor on it, there'll be people who are trying to work out what Connor meant. And you could end up in some strange museum somewhere because just of the metal you're made in, And I think that's just very, very exciting.
It's a bit like DNA being passed over the colour, isn't it?
Yeah. So when I look at stuff in the museums and stuff, I often think, God, that's completely arbitrary. Okay, you find a head from Egyptian times, and you think, actually, it's not very good, really. You think, actually, it's probably just something that an average Joe did in Egypt 4,000 years ago. It wasn't like the best of its time, and it wasn't a particularly good example of the culture, but it just got found, and it just got put in a museum because it's so old and so precious and rare. It's not necessarily the best thing the Egyptians ever did, it's just an example of what was found. And I suppose in a sense, doing this, we put ourselves in the frame in 1,000 years' time, You're not bored of that as well, I think you'd be quite excited of that. I think your eyes need to be bigger.
See how it's taking shape.
Yeah.
It's these damn eyes. I don't know what eye you've got. Have you got big eyes or have you got small eyes? These ones are what they call pixels and small. Sorry. And I've got to make it bigger. So that's quite difficult. Actually, that's already better. So that's left eye's one I made it bigger, and that one's a small one. You see how it's... Your eyes are actually much bigger.
Albeit you learn, as you said, you still got to have that ability, that innate ability.
Do you think
in the
so?
first place anyway.
Is that what you think?
I think it is. You've got to have some sort of ability to be able to do what you do.
Mm.
Otherwise there'll be thousands of us that be sculptors.
Yeah. Yeah. What a thought.
So looking at the work that you do now,
Yeah.
put it against the work that you did at the start of it,
God,
there's got to be a hell of a lot of difference.
There
isn't
is.
there?
And that's the flip side. So I built a foundry when I was 18 out of a hoover and a dustbin after being around India and studying, becoming an apprentice at the Royal College of Art and all that sort of stuff. I decided I couldn't work for anyone else. So I built myself a foundry when I was about 18, 19, 20. Started to do my own thing. and build and build and build. Don't yawn.
I've not
And,
smoking, ain't you?
And I was casting work of my own sculptures at that time, which I thought were brilliant. And now I look at them and I think, oh my God, that's horrible. That's terrible. And it just plays against you because you suddenly think, oh no, that's going to last hundreds of years and it's horrible. It's really, really bad. And I really wish I could get rid of it and melt it down again, but it's sold and is someone's mantelpiece. And then you go and you see it on a mantelpiece and you just cringe. You think, oh God, I can get that back. You know, I'll give them something else. And it's just that whole sense of moving on and developing. All my learning is now in metal, and all my lessons have been recorded and are left for people to look at. And sometimes it's quite a painful thing. It could put you off making stuff because the feeling is awful.
I know my son, he came here today, he did his, he did 3 lots.
Sorry, who?
Further education, my son.
Yeah.
And he came here for illustration.
All right.
He got his BA in HND, etc., etc. But the work that he does today, you'd think he were a different person.
Really?
The work that he did back then.
And it's better.
A lot better. A lot better. He says it himself.
That's interesting because I bet you thought it was brilliant back then. You couldn't get any better. And then you see, actually, you have got better, of course.
To be honest with you, what sort of struck us with our Carl, he'd found a picture of Winston Churchill and literally drew the picture straight from the photograph of Winston Churchill. And it was the first time really that he'd sort of sat down and seriously did any sort of drawing. And from there he never looked back really.
Really?
The only problem is, unless you've got the money to be able to do it, there's no employment out there for it.
Well, I heard a statistic the other day on the radio. It was that 40,000 artists in London, only 500 make a living out of it. Oh God, I've got to keep going. I've got to keep working hard.
And there's also that thing of caught in catch-22. To be able to get a job in the industry, we've got to be, every job that you look at, you're looking at 2 years experience, studio experience.
Yeah.
But if you can't get into a studio, how do you get the experience?
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, nowadays the work with freebie a lot.
Yeah, well, there's internships and...
Exactly. Now if a lad like our Carl, to go into an internship, you basically got to be able to have a mother and father that can afford to go through that internship.
Yeah. Do you want to walk around?
You're taking shape, huh?
Do you want to have a break?
I'm alright.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You can?
Alright.
You sure?
Yeah.
Do you want me to slap you around the face and wake you up? You alright?
Yeah.
You're wriggling a bit and I'm worried about you. You're okay?
Yeah.
How much have we done? How much time have we done? Is Danny in?
This is an old black or it never stays still, do you, Carl?
No.
We're over halfway, okay? It's worrying for me, but it's a relief for you, because I'm thinking, this is nowhere near. At the moment, you look 92. You've got a nice little corner of your eye I like. Few sensitive moments in there. I'm just going to get that lid in.
So is that the one that you use as the caster?
Well, I'm going to make what we want to do is addition these, which means make about 8 or 9 of them, 10 of them. When you make sculpture, how you make a living as a sculptor is you get one sculpture that's good, someone likes it, and you can make a mould of it, and then you can make 10 of them out of the mould. So I can make a mould of this, rubber mould, and I'm going to give you a plaster anyway, or white. You're going to get a plaster head of yourself for you as a present. And then I'll cast one in bronze and we'll show it in the French Gate or in a shop somewhere. And if someone wants to buy it, we can say, okay, we can make another one, and another one, another one. That's how you can basically make a living. So every now and again you hit a sculpture that's successful, people like, and you can actually sell 10 of them. And that's a great relief, because if you're a painter and you sell one, you get one hit, and you sell it, and you go, oh, I've got to start all over again. Whereas this, you at least get a respite. You think, for a little while, I think I can sell a sculpture or two, and then we don't have to worry too much, don't have to panic about the next one. We can just do it properly, and just relax and get on with the next sculpture without worrying about whether it's going to be a seller or whatever. So you have that kind of respite. And if you're casting it yourself, like I do, then you also have, I suppose, casting money and stuff as well. So you can sort of win on both levels, whereas you have to give it to another foundry and then pay them to cast it. So that's why I learned how to cast. So I could also have that safety net as well if I needed it, of casting other sculptors' work as well as my own. I think that's a great sort of trick. I'm just getting you with a hot knife now. Your expensive haircut, I must. And your big forehead. I don't want to make it look like Hitler. There's a great shape in this. I love this shape here. The 2 years are fantastic. And I haven't got it. I must concentrate on it. And I'm going to go back to your eyes again. It's a wonderful shape there. It's really difficult because basically from there to there it all goes like that, and then in here there's a real subtle raising or puffing. See, the shape is going in there, but there's like a really subtle moment here that is really difficult to grasp, and that's what, if you're not careful, I can get stuck on and work on for hours. It's a nightmare, isn't it? And it really, to what effect? But it would be really interesting thing to get exactly right, just an undulation. Got really carried away with Keith's hair. It was really subtle, smooth hair that he had. And it was a lot.
Did you get his moustache right?
Yeah.
He's very proud of his moustache.
He is, isn't he? There's a little curl in it. You can tell immediately. And you see, I can't give you all the bits of modelling and all these, like these marks here, that lovely mark there, that's my finger mark, that's my mouth and my finger, and all goes in there. But I would often leave those, but if I'd leave that, you look older. And really the point of this is to get you at your right age. So the neck is the first trick, the scale of your head is another. And I really got to get it right. And if I leave your eyes hollow, you're going to look old. So I have to kind of just put something in there like that. Like that, you see. It makes it a bit more believable, but it's not the eyeball, it's more like just the iris. Now if I just smooth it up and catch, actually the impression is just to catch the eyelid. It actually joins the eyelid a bit. You'll kind of look up slightly wistfully at your mum. And you start to just sort of become believable. But I leave a space at the bottom. I leave the line at the bottom, but just blur into the top. I wonder if it's like doing makeup. And this lid here, you've got a wonderful, the top of this bit folds into your actual lid, which at this scale is a nightmare. When you want to end up drawing, if I just draw a line, that's drawing. That's not sculpting.
Yeah.
You've got to actually find it and get the shape. And when it's so small, it's just really difficult. Then you're going to end up looking 92.
That's what you look like when you get to an old man.
I give you the vision of the future. But if you put the whole, when you're making sculpture, you don't want to become an illustrator. This sounds so subtle, doesn't it? But an illustrator, an illustrator would put the whole eye line in and the whole stuff around there, and I'd just copy your head. But I've got to work out what I want to bring out and what I want to lose. So I want the outside of the eye, but I don't want the inside. I could carry that line in there, and I end up with like a big eyelet. But that's kind of illustrating your eye. It's what they call illustrating your eye. Whereas we want to make art. So I've got to sort of tell the viewer what I want them to see. So I want that bridge to be shallower in there. Because your skin is fresh. And your cheek is. See, if you look at that now, that eye, I think the eye is. Do you think the eye's better now?
Yeah.
Do you think the eye's better now?
Yeah.
Do I believe you?
Yeah.
I'm looking in your eyes. Better, but not right. It's going to be a little bit more. Sometimes I think I'm doing nothing.
Have you started narrowing down what you're going to use?
Oh, God, it's hard. Last night I did a talk and I showed another, on top of the one you came to, I've got another 5 ideas on top of that.
Yeah.
And then someone said, look, you really have got to do the women, the family. You've really got to have female women in there. And I said, you're absolutely right. So I woke up at 4 in the morning and I was thinking about what they said, and I was thinking, how do I get a family? How do I get the idea of family in there? And how do I get the idea, the story of I've got so many stories. So basically I came up with the idea of a family. So you get, what you don't want to do in modern day life, it's very difficult to apportion roles to the sexes, so mother, dad. You can't, in modern day world, if I go, okay, the woman stayed at home and the man worked and the woman looked after the child, it's kind of bad politically to sort of give people what you call generic roles. But the mining industry was all about, every time I go and do this talk, it's all about every man needs a good woman behind their back, and it was like the strength of the woman kept the man going, all that sort of stuff. And it was a strong role, but it was essentially still a very stereotypical role.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to make I suppose a contemporary statement about family, I've got to really be careful about what roles I ascribe to each gender. So it's a very difficult thing. So it'd be great to have a woman holding a baby, saying goodbye out of a window, and a bloke going off to work, which is really what was happening.
Yeah.
But it would be not politically correct, I suppose, is the way you say it. So last night I came up with the idea of maybe, I thought, actually, that's a cool idea. I talked to Joan about this. I thought if I did a man standing there, woman with her hands on his shoulders, and him looking at someone like Connor on the floor, Connor playing with all like the mining helmets, David lamps, pickaxes, snap tins, Dudleys, checks, motties, all of that, like they were toys.
Yeah.
You end up with this quite kind of this man's looking at his life, his child, but also the whole of his life and his history, and they could all be like historical objects that this kid's playing with as though they were his toys. Kid doesn't understand them because they are redundant objects now, no longer used. There's a real power to that. There's a real power to the idea that this child's playing with all these objects. There's a woman who's in a really strong position with her hands on the shoulders of a man who's sitting there, just straightforward looking, and so that all the power is in his gaze. The power is in where she's looking. Is she looking out like a big kind of powerful kind of visionary kind of character that's sort of steering the future in the direction of the family? Have I, in that instance, created a new relationship for this sculpture that isn't stereotypical? You've suddenly got ambiguous roles that the sexes are playing. You've got family in there, but there's a kind of unease as well, as an incredible, on the surface it's a harmonious, beautiful family scene. But when you start looking at what the child's doing, which is playing with the father and the grandfathers and the fathers before that, work and jobs and life, you start to see a power about the kid that doesn't understand all that, and how the father's going to have to tell and watch the child not understand how to use these things. So there you end up with an interesting story. So at 4 o'clock this morning, I was drawing that idea out. And at the moment, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I'll give a talk and then someone will go, you know, you've missed this and you've missed that, and then it will come crashing down again. And that's the process I'm going through, is I'm scaling the dizzy heights, thinking I'm brilliant, and then it all falls apart.
I like that idea of a kid being in, or being surrounded by the things that makes his dad's life, his dad's life. Because that did happen. That did happen in that way. As kids, you learnt a lot more about Pitt than what you realise you were being learned. And it's only sort of in later life that you sit there and you think, well, yeah, my dad told me that bit. My dad explained that to me.
Hold
you
that
know,
for
there's
me.
a vein on his knee
Hold
type
that.
of thing.
Hold that.
There's a vein on his knee.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I'll never forget my dad used to put his flat cap outside,
Hold it.
and then he'd have his cigs outside of that, and his chewing tobacco outside of that. And I was younger than our Connor, and the inquisitiveness took over, and it was the first time in my life I ever put chewing tobacco in my mouth. It weren't me last, but it put me off it for quite a while.
Thank you.
I've never had heartburn.
Really?
That is what I had heartburn. But nobody told me you're supposed to spit it out, not swallow it.
Oh, God. Yeah. So at the moment, I think, you know, that's quite an interesting, because it's not obvious. You know, it's family and it's role play, but there's different strengths in there. And there's, as you say, there's stories to tell about passing information on to children and about growing up and about the role of, I mean, even a dad that's sitting down, he's, you know, a miner that's no longer mining. All that's quite powerful, but also it's a very beautiful thing to look at. So you're looking at something that's on the surface of it, you drive past, you think, oh, that's nice, there's a family scene, it's beautiful, you know. Then you'll walk past it the next day and you go, hang on,
And you look closer.
that kid's playing with a miner's helmet. What a strange thing to play with, you know. And actually the dad's other eye looks a bit sad. One eye's happy and the other eye's sad. What's going on? So he's suddenly not quite as, you know, he's reflective. And then the mother is strong, but also there might be a kind of a tear in her eye or something, you know. And you suddenly think, actually, there's two emotions going on in this. There's two stories. And then the next day you go past, and actually, do you know what? All those pieces of kit on the floor, they're from different periods. That's leather, that's steel, and that's some of those are over 150 years old, you know. It's actually the kids playing with a whole history.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, look, all the names on the side of this. It's all like, name Rossington, they're all the name of the mine pits around the area, you know. Suddenly you can come back to it. And then I actually imagine you and Connor, you going with Connor and going, do you know what that is? And you go, I don't know what that is. That's called a snap tin. You go, what the hell is a snap tin? You go, well, that's actually what we used to take our packed lunches down to the pit. You know, really? Because, oh, that's a weird thing.
Keep mice out.
And then and keep mice out. And then he's no longer around, God forbid. 50 years later, you're going down there with your son, 30 years later, and you're going, do you know, I came here with my granddad, and we looked, do you know what that is? He goes, no, that's a snap tin, eh? What are you talking about, Dad? Well, that's what they told me it was, and that's for keeping mice out of the packed lunch. And suddenly the sculpture is passing information on to generations, and that's what I'm interested in thinking about. So we're not going to come up, basically...
And in reality, is mining communities and ex-miners, that's something that we are not just aware of, but we're worried. You're worried that because nowadays you're not passing on to them things to your kids and your grandkids, that it'll all come to a stop.
Yeah.
Because not just in with the words and not just in with the things, but there were a mentality of belonging to a mining community. You never ever said anybody's name down pit. If you were talking about somebody, you never ever mentioned them by name, because you didn't know if you were sat next to a relation or not. So it would always avoided like the plague. Let's put it that way. Albeit there's one or two sort of funny stories that wasn't observed and it dropped the lads in more. I'm trying to keep
on the right side. It still exists, obviously, doesn't it?
Yeah. There was one of our lads' favourite story, and they were sat on Paddy, And this lad was saying that he'd been with a lass over the weekend and he gave him blow for blow, what they did, etc., etc. And as they got to the far end, this fish shot from one side of Paddy, and it were a father sat it next thing. And he clipped him round nose and busted his nose and said, "That was my daughter, you be."
Bloody hell.
You know. He so learned, you never do it.
Yeah. Well, you can't put that across in a sculpture, though. How do I suppose these are the sort of things that... But it's now said,
Yeah.
and it's on there, and it's all part of this process.
Things like that, if you like, go down as local legend, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but it's also, but it's now recorded on a camera, and that's what's happening here as part of this making process.
You noticed I never mentioned the lad by name.
Yeah, you did, yeah, you were very good. If I can forget it, tell me where it is.
And it's like I said, every shift, if you come out at the pit without laughing at least once, you'd had a bad shift.
Really?
You'd had a bad shift. A really bad shift. There were a lad called Eddie, he's no longer with us now, bless his heart. And that lad could tell a tale. He could tell a tale brilliantly. And he had the job of taking young lads when they were first down pit. And he were an odd jobman. He'd turn his hand to hope, did Eddie. And they gave him responsibility of having a gang of young lads with him. So he perfected his storytelling abilities on these young lads even more so. But you always knew if you bumped into him down pit, you'd laugh. You'd have a, and that's something else that's lost with,
yes,
you know, the amount of poets that's lost, painters, writers, singers, comedians, and
gosh, yeah.
that sounding board isn't there now, and it were a...
And testing ground.
Yeah.
Sort of breeding ground, really.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And it's like I say, you know, there'd be tales now, there's lads tell stories of old lads at pit, what they did and what they didn't do. But that line's broke now.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that's at the back of our minds, as old mind, is that, you know, it'll come a day that because it's not carrying on and being replenished as a workforce, that those stories will die away.
Yeah.
And there were always a chance that if you, like I say, if you gave it, you'd have to take it. You know, you'd have to have the ability to be wound up as well as do the mind, you know.
Yeah. There's a great pride in being able to take it.
Yeah.
And give it. I have to give you a little hairy quiff at the back. That'll give you an age. That's a 10-year-old quiff, that is. Tuft, sorry, not quiff. I bet you wish you'd greased your hair down now. Look at that. Got a horn. At least you haven't got a beard.
Yeah, an old Eddie, the Taft Pit lads, were walking out one day and he said, he was sat talking to the lads. And he said, "Have you heard about Billy?" And there were a lad that used to work at Pickford and they were big mates with Eddie. And he had a bad speech impediment. He couldn't say Billy, it was Billy. And Eddie had called in off 8 days at pub at top of Pit Lane for a quick pint before going home. He says it was a Wednesday. Went by, they were half empty anyway, and thought payday. And their lass had said to him as he were leaving that morning, "Eddie, I've got a nice piece of steak that I'm going to do for your dinner." So Eddie says, "Oh, all right." So he called him up for a quick pint before he went home. And Billy was stood in the corner. And Eddie says he looked right down in dumps, he looked really fed up. And he says, and I know that he lost his man a few weeks beforehand. So he said to Billy, Billy, sup up mate, we'll take you back to our house for your dinner. So Billy nods. And he walks him down the road and Billy went talking. And Eddie says, you know lads, he says, he never said a word all the way home. He says, now I ain't worried about him thinking he's drawn into his shell. So he gets him, he says to his missus, put that steak on Billy's. So Billy sat there with steak, mushrooms, chips, the works, and Eddie sat with egg and chips. And Billy picks a bit of steak up, shouts dog over, he gets steak to dog. And Eddie went, what are you doing? He says, I've been dentist today, mate. He said, but that was a given thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it weren't peculiar to one thing, it weren't peculiar to us as an industry. Talking to that lad earlier on, his dad come from steelworks. They'll have had the same sort of banter at steelworks or on docks or, you know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was as much a state of mind as anything else. And again, that was just peculiar to mining industry, that were peculiar to any heavy industry, I suppose, whether it be dockers, whether it be...
Yeah, something about, I mean, it does seem to be more prevalent in the kind of mining community in the way people talk about it. I suppose if you go to Sheffield though and talk, I mean, do you know people from Sheffield who worked in the steel factory, for example? I mean, do you go there and you listen to them talking like you do?
There were a lot of lads from our village that worked at steelworks at Scunthorpe.
I mean, but do they have the same culture, for example,
No.
as you guys? I mean, would you go to a club there and they'd be talking like you about working down a steel in a steel factory?
I would be surprised.
A big
if they didn't. I mean,
definitely.
especially when you look over into Sheffield area, where the people lived around the works, whereas at Scunthorpe, all right, there were a lot of Scunthorpe people there, but there were a lot of people busting from other areas as well. So when they left work, where we leave work and we were in our community with the lads that we work with, a lot of them weren't like that. I mean, at one time of day they would have been, but you know that.
Yeah.
The lads had to over here and tell you more of that. But I mean, my best mate, he worked all his working life at steelworks at Scunthorpe. And they still had the banter, they still had the crack. He came away, left that area, left Scunthorpe and came back to a pit road. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Give me an eyelash.
I'm fascinated how you build it up in layers.
I don't want to give you bags. Haven't got any. Doing kids is difficult, you know, because usually you have a bag or two you can rely on.
I see what you mean though about saying that there's no sort of...
The features are...
A younger's face is more plain, isn't it?
And it's just...
Or is it the French say, the fit the face? Or the way the face well? I think that's not like that.
That's nice, I like that. You're nearly there, Connor, you're nearly free. Oh, come on now, come on. Come on, Edwards, let's get this sorted. Come on, boy. There's a fringe there, there's a line there, that might give me something. Give me something to play with there.
So do you ever get to a point where you scrap it?
Yeah, but I can't do that here. That's the scary thing. I've got one shot. I can't come back to it tomorrow. No, you might get a phone call. I've got to get you younger. I've got to get you younger. You're not young enough yet. That hair is this hair is. It's a sorry for stab you. This is a 10-year-old's hair. You know that line there is. Something about it is. I don't want any lines here. So I think I'll wax the puddle around there. There's such subtlety, I'd spend a lot of time just lifting the face.
So you're doing little bits like that, Laurence. It's got to be as much ability as what it is learned.
Yeah, maybe. And don't go back on the sticky finger. Or stick. Just go back over on that.
How are you watching?
Bit of white spirit.
School will be asking you how it went.
They can all watch it online. The great thing about this is
You want to tell them that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you'll have the head and you'll have the film of its making. You've been brilliant, actually, Connie. You've been brilliant there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that breeding ground of poets and artists, and I don't know, there was something special about them lads down there. They could tell a tale, or especially if they could tell a tale as a joke.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It were.
God, you imagine that. It's like showtime down there.
Somebody says to me once, "What can you remember about growing up in a mining community?" And the first word that came to mind was quiet.
Really?
Quiet. Because it were, like I say, with my dad being on, he was a mechanical engineer, when it came to pit weeks and village would empty it, kids, everybody would go to wherever holidaying, and the village would empty it, kids, I were one of the only kids that stayed in village because my dad were working down there. So the quietness of them periods is something that stuck with me
Really?
ever since. I mean, rest of the time you'd grow up and you'd hear, we had an open air swimming basin thing that miners built. And you'd always hear kids screaming and shouting, or
Yeah.
kids in schoolyard screaming and shouting. But for that fortnight period, it was like being out in the middle of nowhere. Because 3/4 of the village had disappeared all over. And nearly every kid had disappeared on holiday.
Amazing, isn't it? And that's what you remember.
Something that stuck in my head.
So you don't think about the fact that it was noisy the rest of the time. You think about the absence.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it got to a point where I complained about it too much, and my mum and dad bought an old cardboard caravan at Fitties at Cleethorpes, and I started to realise it was the worst thing that I did complain about being with them, because I spent the next 3 or 4 years, 6 weeks, every 6 weeks at Cleethorpes. A fortnight I could manage, But 6 weeks were a bit of a bind.
God, 6 weeks.
Yeah, my dad would take us out on first day of school holidays, drop me and my mum there, and leave us for 6 weeks, and he'd come back to work, and then come and see us every week.
Really?
Yeah.
God. So you were taken away from home, really?
It was at the tail end of nowhere, Laurence.
Yeah.
That was where that caravan was. A place called Fitties, it's far end of Cleethorpes.
Fitties.
Yeah. In fact, it were near enough opposite that big fort, sea fort, Second World War sea fort. And unfortunately, the biggest exciting thing that ever happened there were a load of lasses getting drowned on the ponies
Oh,
and riding
God.
ponies on the beach.
Really?
Yeah, and they got lost. They got lost in fog, and they all of them died, including women that run the pony club.
Bloody hell.
And we all went out doing the one big line walking and trying to find. Because
Did you?
Just,
Part of a kind of a...
I found one of Osses.
Really?
To be honest, yeah, there were a place called Creek. Anybody with a bit of sense didn't cross Creek, but everybody crossed it, basically. Because when the sea had turned, it started coming back in. Obviously, the tidal wave being under, you could get put off very, very quickly. And it was drilled into us kids about not going over there. And unfortunately, them lasses got lost.
God. There was no... Was there a Hatfield... Was there a pit disaster at Hatfield?
The cage went down.
Cage went
We had a cage accident. One died a little while later from his injuries. But we've got quite a number of people that lost limbs, lots that lost limbs. And it's only in this last 4 or 5 years that the last survivor from the cage crash passed away.
Really?
So it stayed in psyche of villages.
Yeah.
Like that. December, just before Christmas.
Noses are...
That was something else I remember, and all that on Sunday evenings. They'd done testing at pit buzzer, disaster buzzer, and it felt up and down pit. And it was chilling in itself.
Oh.
They stopped doing it in latter years, but you'd hear a bump.
Oh.
I can remember saying as a kid to me, Dad, what's that? And he said, they're testing cage for lads to start riding around tomorrow. And you could hear the bump underground as they were testing cages. And then they'd let go with pit buzzer that were only supposed to ever be sounded if they're opening top of a major accident.
Gosh.
Would you mind, Laurence, if I borrowed Mick to get his beautiful portrait?
Good idea.
Would you stand for a portrait?
Yeah.
Can you show me the other photographs?
Daughter?
Yeah.
And then we're going to have Connor as well.
Yeah.
Or you'll have to come back another time. I said you might have to come back another time.
Do you want it? Are you going to do it now?
The thing is for us is it's incredibly important that we don't just have a mining male because like Laurence was saying with the sculpture it's about everybody, it's about the kids, it's about the wives, it's about the glue, it's about the community, it's about family and comradeship. So if you're here, I want a photo. She's like, oh no.
No, he's right when he says, Kes, think what we're saying, what we said all the way through. We were brought up with an ethos and we've brought our kids up with that same mentality.
And do you know what's beautiful? We've got our students here as well who, like I'm learning, and I'm 33 and I'm learning. These guys are 16, 17, 18. And this story is going down 2, 3 generations just by coming to the college and sharing it with our students as well. And the kids are going away and they're just like, realise like the whole scale of the effect in this area. I think it's amazing. That's why it
Hold your head.
extends so wide and
And
doors.
it
The
weren't just,
bloody one drop it. Otherwise
it weren't just on an economic stance, it were a social stance. I've always said that when people did it acted as a social umbrella.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I've learned along the way is the welfares and the cricket pitches and the sports fields and the gymnasiums. I never ever realised that actually all that was from the mine.
Yeah,
So the miners' welfare in Brodsworth, it's all connected. I used to play on that pitch as a kid. Like, you don't realise that the whole thing is connected to the mining heritage and the mining community. And essentially, when you remove the mine, you've got an unfunded community that has to deal with that as
Well, exactly. I mean, we're in a funny position at that field really, because it was mothballed that many times. But after the first time of redundancies, the first scale of redundancies, there were very, very few miners lived in our villages that worked at that field. The majority of that workforce went to work, earned the wages, and instead of coming and spending it in our communities, they go back to their own communities where that disposable income would do their communities benefit. Never ever did us any benefit. You know, and unfortunately, if you look at that field, we have got,
I played a new game called
out of
Fortnite
all
for
the
mates.
ex-mining areas in Doncaster,
online.
we've had nothing
Yeah.
spent on us because we've always had no link down.
Yeah.
And every time we've argued that we've got a community in the way that we've got community, it was just thrown back in
It's
the face
just
by
like, yeah, comes in line. It's like
unwilling
standing
listeners,
with,
if you
you
like.
can do like
You know,
squad
rather
duos
than we
and
could play with that.
that. So you
Squad
can
and
do duos.
And I always used to say, well, yeah,
With people.
miners
Yeah.
in that community to make it a mining community. And our own
Yeah,
council
the
at
last
the
one
time,
Sunday.
we were putting in for
You've got to be the last man standing.
Well,
a rural
last
challenge
squad,
bid. It were one of these
last one,
government
last two, or last four.
schemes. And it were a rural challenge bid of £1 million.
I am.
But you could
Done
generate
squad
other monies in with it.
two
You know what I mean?
times.
Have you?
Yeah.
And
How many
I
people
learned a
play
hell of
it?
a lot in that, the other new building that bit up.
There's that many people.
The-
Excuse me
we
for
should
20
have
minutes
got
yesterday.
would have been
And then excuse me for
unavailable to
in
us,
half
if
an
you
hour.
like. I'd been asked by council if I could go to twist anybody's arm down a bit to find out how many miners were actually living in Stainford. We were talking about Stainford, but again, like I said to Laurence earlier on, Hatfield Pit found its workforce from Stainford, Thorn, Moorends, Hatfield and Dunstall, so like 5 villages that sent to me. And I went down and I went into the bloke's office and I said, can you tell me how many, I'm not saying the lad's name, please. I said, can you tell me how many lads are living in Stainford that works at Pit? He says, I can't, mate. He says, rules and regs say I can't. I said, do you want a coffee? I said, aye. He said, well, what am I going to
It's
do?
kind of square magic.
So when he went out, we got 12
I'm trying to get.
from those 5 villages.
You look up like
12
that.
worked at Pit. Out of the workforce, I think we're about 200, something like
That's
that.
not bad.
So in reality, the regeneration, where you've seen coalfield regeneration in other areas, we've had nothing spent on regeneration in that. Not a penny. Not a penny.
Come down here.
And even now, we're not getting a penny spent. We've got a big scheme that's been in the offing for the last maybe 10, 15 years.
What's your son go through the
The
paces?
DN7 scheme.
Watch your son go through the
And
paces.
We're okay to plan the DN7 scheme out with a working
Do
college.
you think so, from there?
But because we've got a protection order on our headgears, there's
He's been brilliant, hasn't he?
DN7 project with 2 headgears there. You know what I mean?
It's hard.
We're
It's not
still
easy.
They're still trying. They'd love to knock them down, to be honest. Wipe it out and end up with some. You know, you
Caden,
talk
it's a bit quiet here. I've seen Caden.
What's that called? What's that?
He won't say a word.
Nice.
He won't say a
It
word,
didn't put the
won't he?
employment there. It didn't put her out there. Sad. Sad. And when you think about it, Hatfield's got the last 10 years in the Doncaster coalfield. Out of, I think, at my last count, there were 16 colliery villages in Doncaster. You know, you could stand up one pickup and see a next pickup.
Yeah,
And
it's
now
insane, isn't
it's
it?
only went to the left. You know, we like I said, 300 years ago. Oh wow. Are you going to have your Jordan on then, Kenny? You stand
They'll
next,
light you very beautifully.
you stand next to your father.
Now it's all way down, look at it. You alright, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll keep quiet.
That's my mum's phone.
Is that your mum's phone?
Yeah.
It's probably Kayla. Is it Kaylin?
No, he's only 4.
Oh! Ah! I thought it was your big brother.
No, I thought he was my younger brother.
I thought you were complaining about your big brother or something.
No, he's younger. He's 4.
So you're the oldest?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to do my stats this year and all that test before I went to high school.
Have you?
Yeah,
What, this year?
yeah, just after my birthday. 2 days
When you're
after.
11?
Yeah, 2 days after my birthday.
Oh, that's boring, isn't it? Does that, have you got? Do you do things like revision yet, or do you just take it as it comes?
No, we do like stats revision like after school, like Tuesdays
Oh,
and
with-
Friday.
Okay.
Did it yesterday.
Yeah.
Easy, it's easy.
Really? Find it quite easy.
Yeah, because they only do like the easy stuff like rounding
right.
and that. At least you get 12 like biscuits and juice and that.
What?
I got 12 bourbon and chocolate fingers.
Really?
Yeah, my teacher got all of them.
If I had time, I'd really get into your hair.
Ringing again.
Hmm?
It's ringing
Oh,
again.
God.
It's called my dad.
Fine. Ah,
My dad or my uncle.
your uncle?
Yeah, my uncle Carl.
Is he always calling him?
No, he called to see night school or something. He couldn't come because he's doing, do you know, Mick was talking about him earlier.
Yeah, what's he doing?
He's just doing this, I think it's someone's house, I think.
Art thing.
I don't know what he's doing. He's just wanting to do something small.
Mm. Are you interested in wines at all, then? That whole history? Or has it got to the point where you just...
Sometimes.
It's great that you have it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's brilliant. The minute I first met him, I thought, he's a great guy. Very generous, open-hearted man.
Yeah. I have to sleep at his house. I have to sleep at his house on Friday
Mm.
to help him look after my cousin. She's only 2.
Oh my word, so you're babysitting, eh?
Oh my god, I've done it before, but last time I didn't. I slept at his house. I had to go home because I was sick.
Really?
4 o'clock in the morning, my dad had to come and pick me up because I didn't feel
Oh
well.
no.
It wasn't half term, so I was sick for the rest of half term.
Oh. Could have been when you were at school.
Wish.
Yeah. So how far away do you live from your granddad?
Not long, because I'm allowed to walk. I'm allowed to walk there by myself.
Oh.
Well, go on my bike by myself.
Right.
I'll never walk.
Do you go out much? Do you play out in this?
No, not much.
What do you mean?
None of my mates live near me.
Don't you?
Only. Well, I'm like, Matt's and my mates live quite close, so I'm not even allowed to go down there.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know, Mum just not like me.
Yeah.
My dad would, Mum doesn't.
It's because she loves you.
Well, she's let me walk home by myself now tomorrow.
Is she?
Yeah, me and my mate are walking in by ourselves.
To where?
Our house, because he,
From where?
in from school,
Oh, okay. How far is your school then?
like 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Will it be dark or will it be light?
No, 'cause we finish at like 3:30, so it's still light. I get to go on bus for my son next week and all,
Yeah.
so I have to go to Macaulay.
To what?
To Macaulay for high school. Most of my classes go in.
Macaulay, your school.
Yeah,
Is that the high school?
yeah, that I'm going to. Most of my classes go in there.
Oh, well, that's nice. Have you got friends in your class?
Yeah, most of them have got work. All my mates are going there, I think.
Or is there any other options?
Yeah, but Trinity's horrible, Ashill's horrible, and Carlton's too far away.
Why is it horrible?
Because my cousin, my mate's cousin, she goes there to Trinity. She says it's horrible, and then we went to Ashill to see her play on a school trip, and it was just all the teachers were nasty and all.
Really?
Yeah.
Head up. What, just a bit short? A bit short-tempered?
Yeah. We had to wait in the room because they weren't ready. And we all been 2 hours and started shouting. Start football training on Saturday and all.
Mm-hmm.
Start football training on Saturday and all. It's me. My dad's doing some on kitchen and then his dad runs it.
Oh, wow. Do you do sport?
Yeah, men's football.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you play for the school team?
No, I don't have one.
Don't know?
We do football tournaments sometimes, but there's not like a specific team for it. Whoever brings the letter in first.
Is it?
Yeah, we did a football tournament at Keepmoat not too long ago. I came third.
Oh.
But I didn't do it.
Where would you like to play if you played, when you play?
Don't know. I support Liverpool, but I know.
Support Liverpool. God, they lost to who? Did they? Swansea. What happened there?
I fell asleep halfway through
Yep.
it. My dad had to pay £7, £8 for it on Now TV to watch
No. And you fell asleep? Well, not as
Yeah.
well. Did you see the goal?
it. Yeah. I fell asleep like into the end of
Did
it.
you hear what the manager said of Swansea?
No.
He said Liverpool are like a Ferrari F1 motor car, and we basically had to create a traffic jam and it was like stuck in a traffic jam on the motorway. We just had to park and slow everything up and just destroy the way Liverpool play in order to get a result.
Yeah,
And they
but I think they were good because they beat Man City.
I know.
They beat Man City and they lost to Swansea.
It's that worry. Everyone loves to love Liverpool.
Only a few people in my class, like the rest of them sport like Chelsea and Man U.
Really? Chelsea up here. I have to support. Thank you. Is that a fact? I thought we'd overrun. Okay, that's good. It'll be what it'll be. Have you ever seen Liverpool play?
Yeah.
Have you?
Well, not in the stadium, I watched them.
I'll tell you.
And my granddad took me to see Leeds because he supports Leeds
Oh, right.
at their stadium.
What, is it Ellen Road?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go because I know at least one.
What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Does it feel like you?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah.
A future footballer? Do you play musical instruments or anything like that?
No, not really. I used to do guitar lessons at school, but
Did you?
I didn't even like it.
No.
Rubbish.
You've got great eyes. I haven't done them justice, I'm afraid. You'll have to live with it. Much bigger than them. Sometimes you have to be really brave right at the last to get sod it. Let's just go for it. That's the pretty. Did you see my? There you go. Dun 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 dun. It's the countdown. It's the scary bit. It's the moment of truth. Look at me, look into my eyes, look into my eyes.
Your mum and dad are virgin, kind of talking. We were in another room. Grandad, sorry, yeah.
What, live streamed?
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were whispering. I didn't think.
So we've heard about football and
Oh,
Swansea
no.
and Liverpool and...
I thought we were whispering.
What?
That's a bone of contention with me and our family. I'm an old Dyed-in-Wool Leeds fan.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and he's betrayed family tradition.
You have, mate. Don't worry about it.
He said he had to go and see Leeds. He was really narked. I'm getting lazy now. I should be around the back doing this. I'm knackered.
Yeah, we took him and his brother to watch Leeds. And we got up on stand and first thing that hit him was swearing from the crowd. And I seen him look at his brother and I went, no, you can forget it.
My little boy loves listening to swearing. But he gets the same riposte as well. No chance.
About the same age, isn't he?
How old are you, fella?
10.
No, my little boy's only 6.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Got to tell him that he's not allowed to play football at the weekend because he's not very well. A bit worried about it. He might have just found out now. Whoops. Can you imagine if he's watching it? Sorry, Jay.
See, now that's what I want about being down fit and not mentioning names.
Yeah. It's a good lesson for life, that. You'll learn, Danny, you'll learn. Right, I better let you go, really. I could go on, it's not done, but... You're a poor fella. It was cruel, really, to ask you to do this.
You're on 7:05, so you're doing really well on time.
Oh, that's not bad, is it? You came late, didn't you? You were looking at TV monitors for a long time. I have to say,
Waiting for my mum a long time.
you are?
Waiting for my mum a long time.
Ah.
What?
Says he loves his
Waiting.
mum a lot.
I thought you were waiting for you a long time.
Wait, isn't it for art?
And I've got a couple of tears and went over at North Bridge.
Laurence likes doing that.
What's that?
I said he took the wrong turn and went over the North Bridge. You like doing that, don't you? I ring Laurence and I'm like, where are you? He's like, just left it.
Giving up, trying to get it.
Give it up.
I was panicking.
Come and get me, I can see a church.
I think I'm in Doncaster. No, I'm cursed. I'm cursed. I have to support Norwich City. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
I go and see him most Saturdays with my son. It's a weird activity going to be depressed every Saturday. It's just like, why am I doing this? I could be doing something good.
Who's that with Laurence?
What?
What team's that with?
Norwich City. On the ball, City! It's about-
You be an Ipswich fan?
yeah, it should be. But I was a rebel from the year word, you know.
I've been supporting
That's what's the name that's chairman now, isn't
Delia Smith.
it? Really smooth.
Where are you? We fully conformed over Stephen Fry. I think Ed Balls is now our chairman, ex-chancellor of the or whatever. It's a very surreal setup.
That ball's a surreal period.
Yeah. Yeah, he's on Strictly Come Dancing when he really should be worrying about the transfer window. Right, I'm going to do a little bit of smoothing out later on, Connor. Get your beautiful complexion all perfect. Whew. Your eyes are still a lot bigger. I've not been brave enough. Ow, that's hot. Stupid thing to do. What a way to end a day with a burnt tongue. Thank you very much.
Right.
Well done, team. It's a wrap.
Yay! Right, Connor, I need to borrow you for like literally 3 minutes just to get.
Thank you, Mick. Thanks for that.
Fascinating
I'll borrow
watching
you
you.
while Grandad talks.
Yes, sir.
I did drop that.